Hello and welcome everyone back. It is Suzanne Worthley with my co-host, Kim Hess.
Hello, everybody.
Kim, we almost got matching colors on tonight.
Yeah, we do.
Unplanned, right? Anyway, we are back with another episode of Energy Unleashed. This is a podcast that actually goes into my client work as an energy practitioner. I go through all kinds of different sessions with people throughout my day, throughout my week, etc. And some of them just stand out. And this one is an amazing story. So most of my clients will give me the approval to use some of their story, or I blend stories so that we can bring them forward to you on Energy Unleashed. And then Kim's part is to unleash it. She comes in and asks all the fun questions and challenges the ideas. And I think she's going to have a heyday with this one, because this is a little, we've been pretty tame up until now, but I figured what the heck, we're going for it. So
I know. Just so everybody knows, I get no preparation, and that's
what's no, I don't tell her anything.
What comes out.
Her faces do exactly what they're supposed to do, right? Because her face is probably your face on the other end of the computer or the phone. So right. As an energy practitioner, the way that I work, I'm a quantum healer. So what that means is that I go, whenever the client comes in, I go into their frequency or their resonance, and on the table when they're doing the actual energy work, the energies will align with whatever dimensional frequency that person has as a comfort zone, or where their soul actually aligns with more. Meaning we have earth, wind, water, fire, ether in our construct here. And so a lot of us will align with a different element. Me, I'm air first and water second. Kim?
I'm water. And
water baby.
Others too, but water's my first.
Yep. And a little bit of earth for you too, because you're definitely kind of a mermaid. Yeah.
Not so much fire. Like you're fire. I'm like, you can do the fire. I'm good with that.
You know what? It's really weird. I just realized this as we're talking. We absolutely counterbalance each other. Yeah, that's funny. Oh my gosh. No wonder we like to work together. So when you know your element, a lot of times that element will come in. Like when I worked with Kim on the table, lots and lots and lots of times, we're underneath the water and we're seeing the crystal caves of Atlantis and Lemuria, etc. You know, traversing in that way. The dolphins and the whales will help, and so on. And so my job is to find what those helpers are. Now, additionally, we have what's known as planes of existence, or planes of reality, or dimensions. And so if we were teaching it in a really basic way, we could do it like a layer cake, going from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to source energy being the infinite. 1 is that earth, wind, water, fire. 2 is plant and animal kingdom. 3 is the human realm. 4, we're starting to get into the ascended masters, and 5 ascended masters, angelics, etc. So when we're in plant and animal, we'll have things like gnomes, and we'll have undines, the little water fairies, we'll have the sprites in the fire, so it's very magical realms that we're dealing with. But these are common realms that I've worked with for, many, many years, because I'm going close to 20 years here. And that's come forward in stronger ways on certain clients. And then other clients, I will just go into different places for their healings. But these realms have been opening up to assist in the healings bigger and faster because of our architecture that's changing in our hologram. And we are being given access to things, even from the galactic world, that we did not have access to before. So many of my star seeds, I'll be pulling in their alien families, their galactic families, etc. So all of these helpers are coming in stronger and stronger. So that's kind of how I work as a practitioner. They're my assistants in terms of moving the energy when the client is on the actual bed for the healing portion. So this particular gal walked in my door the other day, and I said, I don't think I've worked on you before, or have I? And I kind of had this puzzled look, and she kind of giggled, and she goes, you haven't seen me for 10 years. And I said, 10 years?
What? Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness, that's a long time, right?
Yeah.
And she had completely transformed and changed her life in the meantime, and was going through some very new traumas and such. And I don't remember yesterday, much less 10 years ago.
I'm telling you, it's getting worse, isn't it? It's like,
yes. And so the client is done, and I got nothing. So when she walked in with that, you saw me 10 years ago, I could not really pull up anything. So when I was doing the work with her, she was really challenged. She's got I think maybe possibly was divorced, I'm almost certain. and was going through a lot of that, and how we, how we're working with kids and court things, and, shuffling, and the whole 9 yards, just a lot of stress. And with the craziness right now, her stress factor was over the top. And as we went into more of her client intake portion, is where we do Q&A, and I start to learn about what I'm looking for in the body. She was reminding me that actually I could find it. I found it in her body. She was reminding me that she was very introverted as a child. There was a lot of either pain or chaos or loud or abuse or whatever in the household, that when she was very young, she was introverting or pulling into herself as a protection mechanism, which many of us do when we're children. And this will ignite beliefs in long term about not having enough worth. I'm not seen and I'm not heard. I'm not lovable enough to even speak to, much less acknowledge, those kinds of things. So these are a lot of the issues that she was dealing with in now adulthood, but stemming from this retrieval. So we call it like retreating into the body, and kind of in my own imagination. I'm in my own imagination. Now, let's all remember when we were 5 and 6, when I'm in my own world of imagination, a lot of us go to that very special happily ever after place, right? I want everything to be great. If I'm sitting in chaos and things that are making me uncomfortable, and I don't like the confusion, and I don't like confrontation, I am definitely going to retreat into something that feels like I am more safe in terms of happily ever after, right?
Absolutely.
So we had discussed that. I mean, that's, that was part of it. Shows up in her body, that's part of it. So now she's on the bed, and I'm telling you, in my almost 20 years of doing this work, this has never happened. And I'm just going to say it straight out on how it worked. She went into a realm. The very first thing I saw was this fabulous phoenix. And we all know, I think of Harry Potter whenever I see. Did you watch Harry Potter movies?
You know what? I am not. My daughter's probably disappointed in me. I need to do it. I need to read the books, actually. She's got all of them.
Well, they're fascinating. And just the graphics in the way that they casted and did things in the actual movies was so close to the books that I think that they did a really heroic job in that. But the Phoenix comes through in that show a lot. And we all know the Phoenix, burns up and starts over again, rebirth, blah, blah. And this beautiful Phoenix came in. So at first I wasn't too taken aback, because I figured, oh, wow, she's got a freaking awesome Phoenix for an animal totem.
Yeah.
Because what an animal totem is this animal will come in to assist in the healing, and it can either be their actual totem that works with them often, or it can be a spirit guide for them, whatever. And it came in so brilliantly that I believed it was a totem for her. So I was just kind of flabbergasted, because I could see it clear as a bell, and it was just like, the whole 9 yards, burning up and rebooting, and it was just fabulous and beautiful. And I'm like, wow, I'm going to have to really tell her about the totem, right? Well, right after the totem came this dragon, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's pretty cool. And I oftentimes have dragons, because right now in our energy, the mother god energy is really, really ramped up over the last year and a half to 2, maybe even pushing 3 now. The mother god energy holds a lot of dragon. It has to do with the dragon lines in our earth and our planetary system, etc. So the dragon energy isn't something that I'm unused to seeing either. But I thought that was pretty cool. Wow, this woman has like Phoenix first and dragon next. She's got some stuff. She's got some power, right? Some fire. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so fascinating. And then it just kept going and going into, and it was so visual and so beautiful that all of a sudden this enormous green, and I do sacred geometry a lot. So for those of you that don't know what that is, that takes the platonic solids and it mixes them in a kaleidoscope of energy, much like crazy artwork. And that's how I move energy through their grids and through their body and through the universes. So I'm very used to that, but this beautiful, big, sacred geometry of green, the most cool green that you've ever seen energy, was in my eye. And this mandala of energy is at warp speed, crazy, 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 spinning out of control. And then boom, it grew into this beautiful archway that the spin was still in the arch, but the arch formed around it. And then the arch grew into these fabulous, like almost like a brick wall filled with flowers. And then the flowers grew up and around this arch. And I'm just like, what in the heck? I never get this much cool visuals. I was having a blast, and yet going, what is going on?
Yeah, where are you? Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, I don't even know what's happening. And then a Pegasus comes in, and I'm like, okay, we've got a flying horse. Now we've got a flying horse. We had a dragon, we had a phoenix, and now we got a flying horse. And then all of a sudden, duh, bing, my head goes, you're in the enchanted world. You are in the enchanted. And I kept hearing enchanted, enchanted. And I'm like, what is going on? Because I've never, ever pulled 100% healing frequencies through the enchanted realm. They've popped in as beings here and there, like the horse or the unicorn or whatever. But this was full blown, and this is all that was there, and that was 100% involved in her healing. Going in and out of this green portal, it was insane. And it was so gorgeous and so beautiful and so enchanted. And then I'm like, what is happening? And then, of course, the unicorns are coming and everything's just flowers. And it's like, this is like a cool place. I'd like to hang out here. And I was in amazement, and it was insane. It was insane.
So why was that pulled in? Like, what was going on like, why?
Well, I think what happened is it came through her frequency, but now it's going to get a little even trickier. I get done with it. She had a fascinating feeling in session, and she felt all kinds of things, and she felt so great and blah, blah. And she's smiling up, to her ears, and this is all wonderful, blah, blah. And I simply say, we talked about your abuse a little bit when you were a kid. I said, did you go inward to find happily ever after by any chance? And she's like, oh yeah. And I said, did you play in imagination land and enchanted land, like the world of enchanted? And she's like, I don't quite know what enchanted might mean. So I walked her through like what that kind of feels like, means like, and she's like, oh, totally. And then I said, well, you were so amazing that I have to tell you what I saw. So I started telling her everything. And when I got to the story, Kim, about the green portal, her mouth fell open and she goes, I've seen that in my meditations. I've seen that at least 3 or 4 times in my own meditations. And I'm like, what? And she goes, yeah, it just opens up and it wants me to come through it. And I'm like, this is so freaking cool, right?
Wow.
I was in awe. So because of the way that she introverted as a child, she held that within her and she cultivated and she had access to it. But I'm going to go even a little bit more unleashed on this and kind of freak your brain off just for a second. I think it's because certain humans on this planet resonate more to what we would call the architecture of reality, that layers and layers and layers of the reality. Mm-hmm. We've got the earth, wind, water, fire, plants and animals and fairies and all kinds of fun, these gnomes and things. Then we get into, like I said, those angels and those higher angels and archangels and ascended masters. And then we get into the alien realm and on and on. And the higher we go, it starts to become things that we're not aware of. The gods and the goddesses are part of this infrastructure. They're in level 5. And so gods and goddesses are part of our holographic infrastructure, but we just think they're mythology.
Right.
We think they're mythology, which we're all comfortable with because it's a fun story, right? And we, however, will gravitate towards things like the Marvel movies. Mm-hmm. Or the movies that have those, when Thor comes out of the sky, of course, we all love it because he's hot. But there's a knowing in us with Star Wars or with those mythology things. We have a knowing within us. The same thing happened when we watched Avatar. There's a knowing that these realms exist, but they are not in the existence of where we live. The same thing happens with Lord of the Rings. And when you go into the fairy realm, you'll see the Fae. Mm-hmm. And your heart will do these skips that it's like, I know this. And this is why these movies are so popular, okay, and become iconic, because it's actually our higher self knows these realms.
So go back to that level. You said it was like level 5 and the gods and goddesses are there.
Yep.
So the Phoenix and Pegasus and all of that. So that isn't just in that whole god and goddesses realm, or is it like a subset of that? I don't know.
I'm going to be perfectly honest. I have been in the god realm before and haven't necessarily seen all of the genre of the amount of beings that came in for her in the specific god realm. So it's got to be a pocket of it or a reflection of it or a dimension within a dimension of it. I think these are the dimensions that we find ourselves being so confused about, because these are the wrinkles. these are the wrinkles of dimensions. When we're going through the angelic realm and we're going through up to the God realm, and the God realm, when we're going through 4s and 5s and 5s and 4s, our gods and goddesses are slipping into the angels, which are slipping into the fairies. It all is the same thing at this point in time because the dimensions are really merging. And so I don't think that there's just locations for them any longer. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And so I think that now that we've expanded all of this, we're expanding actually even what we know in the dimension to have the beings even be more. So I think it's a cross between 2D and 5D because it feels 2D is very plant and animal kingdom. And these are indeed animals at a different level. But I think it merges into that 4 and 5, right? So this is a fascinating thing to me. And I, as a practitioner, love that architecture work. And I'm going to be studying and asking my own guidance better on this because it was so new for me. What really, really happened, though, I think, is that I went so high into her work that I believe that this individual that was sitting in my office, she is of the enchanted realm in her soul. Like that's where she comes from. And that doesn't mean that she doesn't come down here to the earth plane and have an existence like you and I are doing down here and everybody else on this planet. But her essence of her soul, like your essence of your soul gravitates towards water. Her essence of her soul gravitates towards the entire realm of that.
Wow. So like what I think is interesting is like Pegasus and the unicorn and, whoever came through, were those the same that maybe helped her through her childhood?
I would believe so. I would believe so. But sadly, she's got so much lockdown in her memory. She doesn't even remember anything. But when we go to Enchanted and we're a 4 and 5-year-old little darling, right? I mean, she's a little girl. She's a princess. And she wants happily ever after. Who's going to be your buddies? Of course, that's what's going to come through, right? And not that she has to do a check and remember, oh, yeah, I saw a Pegasus, but it's inside of her. And I made a deal with myself years ago as a practitioner that I would tell pretty much everything that I get in a session to the client, no matter how insane it made me sound, because I think it's fair.
It is.
And we don't know what sometimes is going to click with them. Okay. I will keep some things private if it's just, too dark or too confusing or is going to really put them in an emotional state, but that's rare. And so I sat there and I'm like, do I tell this woman that she's from the world of the enchanted, right? I mean, do I explain all this to her? But man, I'm telling you, when she hit that green portal thing and the dot connected and she said, I know that place. And I'm like, enchantment.
Yeah.
And the irony is she's in this physical world right now, just going through horseshit stuff. And I'm like, you get to hold that enchantment as a beautiful, wonderful human right now, right?
Yeah.
And you get to bring this forward and you get to traverse this 3D life so completely differently because you get to own that enchantment knowledge of who your soul is. And it completely gave her a different perspective on life.
So as a child, do you think she went through that portal? Like just went through it and just hung out?
I can probably guarantee you because me as a kid, I was going through all the alien portals. So I'm sure she was going through her own portals, right?
Yeah, for sure. And
not everybody does this stuff. So I want to make it really clear because if everyone that's listening going, why can't I go through a portal and see the Pegasus? We all hold different pieces to this. I call it a puzzle sometimes or whatever the structure. I oftentimes teach it as Jenga. We hold different pieces and our souls, our higher selves, the highest of our highest self knows the essence of who we are. And oftentimes we will come down here and incarnate to reboot that into the system. And there's very limited amounts of those kinds of incarnates down here. Those that are coming down here to reboot the system or to open that up are not everybody walking on the street. So it doesn't make them better. It just makes them different. And they have just a different soul purpose. And most of the time they don't even know it.
Right. It's all subconscious and it's in dreams. Right. And yeah, that makes sense. Definitely.
So it's this amazing connection to, it doesn't matter if I'm a 30-year-old woman and I've got all these trials and tribulations, I can still find enchantment, right? But also, I don't need to hold on to the belief system of the happily ever after, because this is one of her challenges. She was moving through all of the stress and the trauma in the 10 years that I had seen her, and was still really hanging on to a lot of those beliefs. And so happily ever after is a program. Because we're being saved by somebody, even if it's the dragon, right? I mean, we're being saved by somebody. So these dragons and these Pegasus unicorns, etc., that we're working with her are her guidance to do it within herself. So we take that.
Amazing is in her meditations, and as she heals her and works on herself, that would open up for her to visit again and be
right.
That would be fantastic.
So I said to her, why do you think we didn't find this 10 years ago? And she's like, I have no idea. And I said, because it didn't exist 10 years ago. And she's like, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, the infrastructure existed. The hologram existed, but the netting and the programming and the reversal programming that we've had in our hologram has kept us from all of that. And the only thing that has changed that has been the Mother God quotient that came in. The Mother God completed the trinity of Father, which is thought and positive, Mother, which is negative and emotion, meaning negative in terms of a battery, and Child, which is neutral and action. And we have only been working in thought and action all of these years, and eons and eons and eons, right?
Yeah.
This is what you're told to do. This is how you act. This is what you're told is your truth. This is how you act. And when Mother came in just recently in these last several years, boom, the balance came in to say, no, this is what you're taught or thinking or told, but what does your body feel? What does your body feel?
Right. Do you remember a few years ago, maybe 3 years ago, in some of the work that several people were doing, and through probably Lisa Renee even, but there was weren't the gods and goddesses also kept from us, or
yes,
and that opened up as well, like that?
Yes.
Okay.
What is that? Like maybe 4 years ago?
I think it's 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I would have
the God realm in that 4 and 5D is in such a messy state, and we couldn't get there either. It was, again, the pieces were missing in the Jenga, right? We can't get up the steps because 4 steps are missing, kind of a thing. And so now that the steps are all being replaced by architects, like the kind of work that I do in the grids, and there's many of us doing it, I'm sure, put that architecture back together, and now we have access to it. And a lot of the other architects out there are getting rid of the nets, which is another thing that I've done also in terms of getting rid of the interference, so that these new 8 waves of energy can come in, so that we can have more access to our help and our beings and ourselves and our soul and on and on and on, right? So we can think of it as the steps we're missing, now we can get higher. And so these gods were presented to us, and they were part of the programming during the Sumerian and Babylonian and Egyptian time, because we were really suffering and trying to figure out, indigenous gods. We've got God of corn, we've got God of wind, we've got God of water, and I need my crops, and we can ritualize that. Well, that got kind of all programmed and taken off course. And then, God forbid, no pun there, God forbid, in came the dogmatic religion that really took us to another level, because they took Mother out completely. So these are the times when we were making choices in terms of our free will choices as a human race down here. And we chose egoic situations that shut those doors, if we can say it that way.
Right. So now, because one, like you said, things have, all of that has been taken away so that we have more access. I would love to know if she can actually reach in and get to that enchanted area at some point, because that's amazing. I think that's,
and I also would love to know, and they do touch base with me again. And I told her she doesn't you don't get to wait 10 years if something's really that bad, and you choose to come get some help, right? And it doesn't have to be me, just get some help.
Right.
But yeah, she was in awe that she had waited 10 years. But I think this is only going to become stronger and stronger in her. And she will, what I'm looking forward to is seeing her realize enchantment is real in everyday life, because we can get caught up into all the yuck and the chaos and the crap and the garbage in the media. And we're sad and we're hostage and we're, this is awful and I don't want to do this. Or we can simply look on the other paradigm and go, oh my gosh, this is amazing and enchanted. There goes a butterfly. And I can just sit with that for a moment. These are in front of our faces every day. And this was some of the homework I gave her. The homework I gave her was to go into the 2D realm here on planet and start to understand that butterfly knows you.
Mm-hmm.
It knows you.
Everything's so active right now. All the birds, like the eagles, and we have an owl. We only have an owl's nest again back there, and I just am in awe, and I keep catching like out of the corner of my eye. I'm like, wow, that is so beautiful and so amazing.
And the animals are interacting. They're interacting with the human differently. One of my clients said the deer literally comes up and I can feed it by hand, and I had never done that before. Wow. The squirrels are, 2 feet from you, just staring at you. It's just weird, right? Kind of cool. Or us up at the cabin with the deer. The deer come right into your yard,
Oh, they do. They gave me the business about not having any food out there for them. Do you remember that? I was sitting there. I was all by myself at the cabin, and they called Jenny the deer, was the people that had the cabin before us, named her. And she came up, she looked in the little trough, and then she looked at me, and she looked in the trough, and she's like, hello, seriously, where's the food? And I'm like, wow, I am in awe. I cannot believe
I love that. I love that. That's so awesome. Jenny the deer. I love her name.
Jenny the deer.
Well, I do believe that we will find over the next, I don't know how many years, an ascension process is 26,500 plus years. And what are we in 10, 13, whatever, 13 years into it. When this infrastructure continues to heal and change and open up to the divine blueprint that it truly is, I do believe in my heart of hearts that the animals will be leaving this planet in lots and lots of different ways to return differently and to return in mass in really beautiful, magical ways. And I know that there is realms that hold that are waiting patiently for us to do our work. So I believe our individual work is to find enchantment in your daily life, put that into the collective, put that into the source energy, be grateful, right? Be grateful.
Absolutely. This is everywhere. Paradise here. I mean, everything that you read and the things that you listen to, that Earth is it. I mean, and not meaning that there aren't other planets and, but it's paradise here.
It is.
We need to love it and enjoy it because it's gorgeous.
And we forget that because of the fact that we're all whining about the chaos in our own individual lives and worrying about our job and our 401ks and how we're going to feed our kids because groceries are off the charts. What people don't understand is when we put all of that into the collective, that just spins it up even more.
Yeah.
And so to actually hold back, stay neutral, and then purposefully be grateful for the enchantment and put that into the collective, then the scales tip and we start to have more control of our co-creation here. We start to command joy and enchantment and happily ever after in a completely non-scripted and programmed way, because that's our birthright. And other universes, multiverses know that. And that's why this particular, not only galaxy and universe, but this planet in and of itself is the grandest experiment ever. And for anyone that's listening to this, you picked it. You did not end up here by accident. Right. And so it is important, if we choose to look at this in a bigger way and make it about what is my soul doing here and what do I know from the inside versus I'm just going to listen to everything from the outside.
And when you're in the grind, it is if you don't take that step back and really think about what joy is to yourself and what passion means to you and what all of those happiness, what are those things, and start to think about your life in that way, you're missing out because it's beautiful. And like, I was just gonna say, go out in nature, but it's snowing sideways down here right now. So.
But you know what? I have been out. I stood in my porch in that downpour and was just gratifying it. It was fascinating. I stood outside watching the lightning. It has been such a fascinating / horrific winter in Minnesota, and yet it's been the most beautiful, picturesque one ever. There is so much beauty, and it's important for us to choose. We can choose to be negative Nancy. It's all over Facebook and everywhere else under the sun.
Sure is.
Even the poor meteorologists don't even want to get on the news right now. It's like, I don't even want to stand here.
We might get snow.
But it's coming this weekend. Maybe we're going to turn it around here, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's beauty in everything. It's up to us to find it, right?
Yeah. The trees are they're going to change here really fast. So it's
suck it in, suck that magic into your body by giving gratitude out. It's a reciprocal exchange of energy. It is a relationship. And this is what's most important, because the human is supposed to be, quote unquote, the guardian of this planet. And we haven't been doing a very good job. So hopefully if this resonates for you, great. If it doesn't and it's too kooky, that's fine too. But if you like it, hit the like button.
Oh my gosh, let's find enchantment. I'm really going to start to do some work around enchantment, because that is fascinating to me.
And when life bites, just pull in the phoenix, burn it up, get rid of it, and start all over again. That's kind of where I'm going with things. So
yeah, right.
Very awesome. Yeah. Well, I hope that one was a doozer for you. Share it and have some fun with it. And check out the website at sworthley.com for all the other information. Anything else from
your website and on YouTube? Make sure you leave comments after you watch us or listen to this. We appreciate the feedback. And if you have topics you'd like us to cover, we would be glad to take a look at those.
Totally.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if you ever making comments, or even email me at sworthley or worthley@gmail or anything, if you have comments or subject matters. I mean, I mostly do Unleashed about my client sessions and use Kim to, break it open. But we're totally down for any of that stuff. A live would be really fun. So
yeah, check us out. If you want to know about something, more people want to know about it. So don't be afraid to ask. Yeah.
Cool. Well, until next, everybody. Have an enchanted
take care.
evening.
Have a good one.